There have been key issues pertaining to election integrity that you fought for over the years. I mean, you fought against ranked choice voting, and, universal mass mail-in balloting, and then you were fighting for voter identification. I just wanted to kind of go through each one of those just to give people an opportunity to be educated. So Massachusetts almost passed ranked choice voting back in 2020 for all state elections. It was an initiative on the ballot in 2020 as question 2. You opposed that initiative while you were chair of the Mass GOP. Thankfully, you were successful. 54% voted against it. On this podcast, we haven't unpacked what ranked choice voting is. So could you give like a quick, explain what ranked choice voting is and then why it probably would not be the best idea for Massachusetts right now?
Yeah, so as you know, ranked choice voting means you go in and vote, and there's multiple different votes that are then counted, and then they subtract one vote out, subtract another person out, and then they reach this conclusion based on how many votes they have at different levels. It's really quite crazy as far as I can see. There's a congressman up in Maine that lost because of the ranked choice voting in I forget the district, but it was up north. But I do think the bigger issue that we have to deal with our voting is what's happening right now. We just put 160,000 new driver's licenses in the hands of people who aren't in this country legally. We just did that. The way the system is set up, those people are automatically registered to vote. That's what the system calls for.
Really?
That's what the system calls for. Whether or not the RMV does it or not, that's what the system calls for, is that you're automatically registered to vote.
Wow.
So you don't have so now you've got people that are in the country with an ID, right? So even if you have the ID, they can still vote. So the process that we have right now in place in Massachusetts, in the long term, no ID to vote, driver's licenses for illegals, is really creating a big problem, as I can see in our electoral process. So we have to make sure that we change that and we make it so that we know who is voting, who our voter rolls are. And until we do that, the problem is even bigger than the fact that they wanted to get this ranked choice voting in place, which they spent a lot of money, which, by the way, but it was fortunately defeated.
Do you think it'll come back up on the ballot?
I don't think it's going to come back up anytime soon.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I mean, it was such a slim victory that I'm like, I really hope they don't try to do this again. I know in Alaska, there was another example. I can't remember her name, but in 2022, I think, or maybe 2020, there was a senator. Great Republican senator. She lost because of ranked choice voting. She got more votes than the Democrats, but because of ranked choice voting, after they did the subtraction and all the rounds of voting, basically, she lost, and the Democrat won. And it's so sad. And we would have had a majority in the Senate if not for ranked choice voting in one particular state.
Right. But the real, and I agree with you 100% on that, but I really do think the voter ID and the driver's licenses are real significant problems here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I voted for the first time in my town elections earlier this year, and I walk in and me thinking common sense, I pull out my ID and I go up to the lady, I'm like, here you go, my name's Sam. And she goes, oh, we don't need that.
Right.
What's your address? So I tell her my address and my name, and she's like, okay, here you go. Hands me a ballot. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I could walk into the Hunter lives in Plymouth, I live in Sandwich, but I could walk into Hunter's precinct and I could say, hi, my name's Hunter Young, tell him his address, and I could vote for Hunter. Like that's the way it's set up.
Right.
Like that's crazy.
Right.
And then to add in all of these illegal aliens with the now we've got this housing crisis on our hands. Maura Healey's trying to be as generous as possible, or some twisted form of charity that is totally foreign to any form of common sense. But can you talk a little bit more about the voter ID and how that plays into us essentially losing our elections?
Well, you just nailed it. You can go into any any voting location, tell them who you are, and they'll give you a ballot. Yeah. I mean, that's not the way things should be done.
No.
But I think the other thing is the fact that we're extending, the voting time, 10 days, 14 days, whatever it is, and this mail-in ballot voting without, checking the signatures. I mean,
there's no signature verification?
There's very little signature verification, and that's when I talk about if you're not involved and you're not making sure that that's done, then the problem becomes, bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I mean, we've got to get back. I'm a big believer in going right back to paper ballots and make it real simple and come in and vote on election day, and that's it.
Yeah.
But there's only one guy that's going to do that, and that's President Trump.
Yeah.
So
would that be? I assume that'd be federal, right?
Yeah. Well, he's going to try to make it. Yeah, make
Okay.
it that. That's one of the things he's talking about now.
Okay.
And I think people are concerned about the election process right now,
Yeah.
and I don't remember that being such a big issue. When I was growing up, we trusted our voting process. Right now, with all this mail-in ballot voting and lack of identification and all the type of problems that we're seeing nationally, we've got to tighten up the electoral process.
Yeah, I mean, back in 2020, I was homeschooled my entire life, so I actually wrote a research paper on why I thought the 2020 election was stolen, and I remember doing a ton of research into mail-in votes, and there's kind of a lot of, I don't know, it was postured as if you thought during 2020, if you believed that there were issues with the mail-in voting system during the 2020 election, you were postured by the mainstream media as a conspiracy theorist, an election denier, and even still, kind of not as much. But can you kind of cut through the noise on the both Republican and Democrat side? What exactly is wrong? I mean, you brought up signature verification, but what exactly is the issue with universal mass mail-in balloting? Is it okay in any amount, or should it just be completely taken?
Well, we had absentee ballots forever. We never had the kind of problems that we're having right now. So if it wasn't broke, why, it's like the expression, why do we want to fix something that wasn't broke? It was working. So all of these additions that they're making, only complicates election day. And when you see us, some states, they're, the other day in Iowa, they did 150,000 members at a caucus. By 10 o'clock at night, everybody knew what the election results were. Everything was done by paper ballots. Everybody knew what was done. You remember 2020? We didn't know for 3 days what happened.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a problem when that happens. So we've got to simplify the process. By simplifying the process, I think we're going to eliminate 99% of this anxiety that people have about election integrity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I might be mistaken, but I think it was India who they have not mail-in ballots, they have just paper ballots, and they had like hundreds of millions of votes to count, and they counted it all in one night.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, but we can't do it in America. There's too many people. And it's like, no, it can be done. It's just we need to hold our officials accountable.
Yeah. Elected leaders in Arizona in Maricopa County, right there in Phoenix, where all the shenanigans were going on in 2022, and they were saying, they were saying, expect it to take a while. It's like you can't, and they said, like, if you had all paper ballots, like, there's no way you could count it all in one night. Like, come on, we're just human. Like, the machines will count it so much faster, and it's like, no, I mean, this is how it's worked for all of human history. First, I'm sure it was papyrus, and then it was paper.
I don't remember the problems back when my cousin was elected 49 years ago. So the problems have only become more and more larger and larger as we've expanded the ways that people can vote. They're making it more complicated, and I think it opens itself up to what we're seeing, all kinds of problems.